Welcome to my easy bake kitchen. I am cooking a tortilla española, and instead of giving you the recipe, I just rather show you because I wouldn't be able to explain the technique that it takes to be able to make this. So I have two batches of fried potatoes that I'm cooking. I did cut them to this size, probably an inch, and then thickness is probably 5 millimeters, just enough to help them fry quicker. I use three potatoes about this size. They're pretty large, but I suggest if you're gonna start for the first time making a tortilla española, I suggest you do probably only two. I'm using three. I'm trying to make it nice and thick. Now I am getting in the mood with some Rosario playing in the background, un tinto verano, or what the Americans call a wine spritzer, but I use some fresca, citrus flavor, and some red wine. So I'm still frying up the potatoes. This is the second batch. I've cracked 10 eggs since I'm using 3 large potatoes. If you were probably using only 2 large potatoes, I would probably go down to 7, maybe 8 eggs. I chopped up some onion, which I'm gonna throw inside with the frying potatoes. Since I only have one burner, I have to do with what I have. Now if you have a separate burner, you can saute onion, maybe put some bell pepper, maybe some garlic. Some people like to add pieces of ham, shrimp, whatever may hold inside the egg, and that's everyone's preference is different. I like just plain onion, parsley. I use garlic salt because I just like to cheat. And obviously you don't need this baking powder, but I was taught to add some baking powder in a cup with some milk. In this case, I'm using half and half. Let it dissolve inside, and it's literally just a splash of milk, kind of how you would make a omelet and add some milk. You can use heavy cream, regular milk, half and half. I wouldn't do the almond milk and any of those other fake milks, but literally this is what I use, and this is how I was taught. But like I said, you can skip on the baking powder and milk, and this is only to basically make it a lot fluffier, thicker, raise higher, and you can do without, but I do it because that's how I was taught. So I'm just gonna add these onions into the frying pan and then let it brown slightly while I wait for these potatoes to be ready, and then I will be showing you how I mix everything together. Now that I finished frying the potatoes, I clean out my pan. I have probably enough oil in there to coat the bottom, and if you're not using a good non-stick pan, I suggest you use a non-stick pan because you might end up making a mess. So I have it down to a medium, possibly medium low, but since my burner is super tiny, I kind of need to make sure it keeps warm. Now, like I said, I beat 10 eggs. I added my garlic salt, my chopped parsley, a splash of half and half with baking powder mixed inside before putting it in the bowl. Here's my half an onion that I chopped up that I added onto the second batch of potatoes, and obviously I cooked them to where they're golden brown. So now that I have all this ready, I go ahead and mix both things. Make sure you're using a large enough bowl. I actually might have used, well, this is all I have, so this is what I get. When you're mixing this, make sure you've used enough egg, and this is where you're going to be able to see if you use enough egg. You want to just dunk, make sure you don't break whatever potato you have. And as I can see here, like I said, I used 3 potatoes, and This is probably, I could have used 9 eggs instead of 10. This is probably more, it's a lot more liquidy than I need it to be, but whatever, hopefully it just is gonna help with making it rise. So, mix it in a bit. And like I said, I've already salted this, and I tend to taste it with my finger. I don't mind raw egg actually, for this purpose only. But the last thing you need is a tortilla de patata not seasoned well. So I could tell that my pan is nice and hot. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add this in there. And like I said, this is actually gonna be a lot, but we'll make do with. All right. And like I told you before, you can add bell pepper or chunks of bacon, whatever floats your boat. Something that's gonna hold. Now if you're gonna put cheese inside of this, make sure it's the type of cheese that will not melt and make a mess. So, like I told you before, this is a lot of egg. I could have literally done maybe 9, maybe 8, but whatever, we'll make do with it. So it's medium heat, and it's in there. Now my burner is slightly small, so obviously the sides will probably heat as well as the center. So what I'm gonna do is actually cover it. Good technique here is to just shake it to kind of see if the edges are cooking. I can see that they're slightly cooking, but it's still very wet on top, and I'm sure the very bottom starting to brown. So a neat little trick that I learned is that if it's very wet from the top, remember, tortilla de patata, you only need one side to be pretty. The other side's gonna be facing the plate, and that side can be ugly. So what I like to do is just dig my fork here, get to the very bottom, and just raise. And let some of that egg mixture get in there to cook. So I go around and get the fork all the way to the bottom and just raise it a little bit. And do that throughout. Because you will be flipping this using a plate, and the last thing you need is for it to be too wet and then just making a large mess. So already this is looking good on the edges here. All right, it's been about 3 minutes. Couldn't wait 5. I just want to make sure I'm not burning the bottom. I want to shake it some more. Use my little spatula to press this down. Alright, it's going to be a close one. So now let's go ahead and try this. Use my plate. I'm going to turn this handle, making sure you have positive control. Make sure we're putting firm pressure so when you flip it, your pan does not leave your plate. Okay. Okay. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and slide the rest in there. Use your spatula to kind of put everything in there. And pull the plate. Potato in there. Okay. All right. job is to even everything out. The pretty things about the tortilla is the fact that it's nice and round on the edges, and it's because of this here. Alright, so it wasn't bad. Like I told you before, one side might look ugly, just like this, because I kept on raising to get rid of the egg in there. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and cover it up again. Alright, let's check this. Shake it. You see, that's not typical here on the edges, and that's only because the edges are not hot enough to cook the egg. So it's gonna have to take a couple flips. And my problem is, what I don't want is for the other side to start looking like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip it. And I've already cleaned my plate since the other one got a little messy. So that's a little well done, more than what I like, but it will have to do. And that's only because I do have it pretty high on medium versus medium low. Alright, well, I'm gonna let it cook a little bit more. And now typically what I would have liked to see is just slight little brown spots versus everything. It's been 5 minutes and I want to flip this. You can still hear that it's kind of wet on the edges, but that's what it is. You see how it's broken up in the center? All right. I believe at this point, if I wanted to take it out and have it nice and soft in the center and yet tasty, juicy, and not so dry, I think it would be the perfect time to take it out and put it on a plate, maybe cover it and allow it to just continue to cook. Now it's ready to serve. I just cut it in pie pieces and look at that. Nice and cooked. I'm making myself montaditos de tortilla. So typically you would see if it was soft in the center, but in this case I covered it enough times to be able to cook the inside, and obviously it's not my greatest, but I didn't over burn it, and this is just perfect. So montaditos. I myself like some ketchup and some mayonnaise.